good to see your friendly faces here. And if I look a little bit tired, I'm exhausted. Somebody said, you're almost to the end, and I said, it's going to be a real effort to get down that last 3 weeks, because as much as I've enjoyed this job, it has been a lot of work. But anyway, so I'm glad to be here with you today, and we will start off with Rusty Pass and Jim Smith. Today, and there's something about the kindness and gentleness of this man that makes me think, I wish he was my pastor. And so I'm looking forward to our invitation from Leo.
Thank you so much. As Rotarians, we are generally blessed with lives of relative luxury and opportunities unknown to many. Help us to review our checkbooks and indeed the registers of our lives with honesty, as well as we consider our priorities and our opportunities to help others. Open our hearts and our accounts to those in need, while still providing us with appropriate fruits of our own labors. Help us to share not only our intangible wealth, but also our intangible riches of knowledge, leadership, and creativity to make our city, our nation, and our world a better place, filled with the peace and love that you can bring to us. Thank you, Lord, for the food we're about to receive, for the nourishment of our bodies. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And now Amanda Strickland will introduce our visiting guests and Rotarians, visiting Rotarians and guests.
Okay. Our visiting Rotarian today is Jake Schuler from Cashiers Valley Rotary in North Carolina. And then I know several members have guests today. I don't know if the mic gave us.
Good afternoon. My name is Meredith Atkinson with the Vista Guild, and my dad, Tom Gammon, and I are proud to have my mom, Susie Gammon, with us today. Her favorite job would be grandmother to my 6-month-old Collins and my 2 nieces, and her second favorite job would be wife to Tom Gammon. Thanks.
Guest today is Stephanie Benjamin. She's Director of Programs and Marketing with the Lurie Center. And on your table, you have a wine tasting that we're having at the Lurie Center Thursday night. So we'd invite all of you to buy a ticket and come taste wine with the wine evangelist.
He's already been introduced, but I want to say a few words about our guest, my brother Jacob Connor Schuler. Jake is a 1962 graduate of the Citadel. He's a retired professional engineer. He's a veteran of the Vietnam War, having flown the F-105 Lieutenant Chief out of Thailand, some 48 combat missions. And he is the past president of Orangeburg Rotary, Paul Harris Fellow, and he's visiting from Cashiers, North Carolina, where he's still very active in the Rotary.
I'm Alan Robertson, and my guest is Joe Long, who is the Curator of Education at the South Carolina Confederate Relic from the Military Museum. Joe has a very active homeschool program.
Thank you and welcome to all of our guests.
Thank you, Amanda. And now, we've got our double duty guy back for a double week in a row, 2 weeks in a row. I know you will all be excited to welcome Rusty the Past for Health and Happiness 2 weeks in a row.
Thank you. You'll be pleased to know that I won't be here next week at all. So, I just want to, thank you very much. I want to bring to your attention that our former president, past president, Tom McCutcheon, who's no longer a member of the club, but he's excused because on the 20th of June he'll be 98 years old. And I'm going to Charleston tomorrow with the Boeing tour, where is Katie? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, and I'm going after that. I'm going down to see Tom, so I will bring him your greetings. John Hinks informs me that his youngest son produced a grandson who was born over the weekend. His name is Brooks Hinks, and today, incidentally, happens to be John Hinks's 52nd wedding anniversary. Can you imagine being married to John Hinks? Jason Snyder, I'm informed, has had some health difficulty and was in ICU with low sodium and perhaps other problems that I'm not aware of for a time last week. I don't know the exact status today, but certainly we want to keep all of these people in our thoughts and prayers. And that would include, by the way, Lee Lumpkin. And Lee and Mike had, their son was cooking in their house, and the place caught on fire as a result of what he was doing, and they had considerable damage. Now, I don't know how many of you have been in Lee Lumpkin's house, but this is the house that the founder of Siebel's Brews built back in 1870 or 80 or 90 something, and anyway, it is a showplace. Is the only thing I could say, and of course they've got some really tough decisions to make about how they're going to repair it and remodel it, and not to mention the fact that the son Doug was burned severely and ended up in Augusta. And has had surgery, which thank goodness was very successful, and he is back home. But please keep them in your prayers as well. Debbie informs me that her email has been down since last Thursday a week, and so be patient, please, with her. And turn off your phones if you haven't. Today's Bible reading from Genesis is, and God promised men that good and obedient wives would be found in all corners of the earth. And then he made the earth round, and he laughed and laughed. A lawyer who had a wife and 12 children needed to move because his rental agreement was terminated by the owner who wanted to reoccupy the house. But he was having a lot of difficulty finding a new house. And when he said he had 12 children, nobody wanted to rent to him because they were afraid the children would tear the place up. He couldn't say he had no children because he couldn't lie. We all know lawyers don't lie. And so he sent his wife for a walk through the cemetery with 11 of their 12 children. He took the remaining one with him to see the rental homes with an agent, and they found one that they liked, the price was right, and so forth. And the owner said, "How many children do you have?" And the man said, 12. So the agent asked, "Where are the others?" He said, in his best courtroom sad look, he said, "They're in the cemetery with their mother." The moral of which is that it is not necessary to lie, only one needs to choose the right words, and don't forget, most politicians are lawyers. I did run across some trivia, and I hope you will bear with me on this. Vance Eaton will be the only guy who knows how to pronounce his name, so if I screw him up, that's just too bad. You're aware that the new president of France is Emmanuel Macron. The German chancellor is Angela Merkel. The British prime minister is Theresa May. The Italian prime minister is Paolo Gentiloni. Holland's prime minister is Mark Rutte. Sweden's is Stefan Löfven. Luxembourg's is Xavier Bettel. And Scotland is headed by Nicola Sturgeon. Also, Jean-Claude Juncker is president of the European Commission. The one thing that they have in common is that none of them has any children. Somebody sent that to me, and I didn't believe it, so I checked it, and it is correct. And I also, well, let me just say that I was struck that such a grossly disproportionate number of people are making decisions about Europe's future when they don't have a personal stake in it. And I just thought that was interesting. I'm not asking, I mean, certainly we all feel for people who want to have children that can't, and there's certainly nothing wrong with people not having children, but for all of those people not to have children, I thought it was interesting. And in doing that, I ran across this. Emmanuel Macron is married to a woman named Brigitte Trono. Is Vance here? Who was his teacher at La Providence High School in Amiens. They first met and established a relationship when he was a 15-year-old student who joined the drama club she advised. She was 39 at the time. And that, well, never mind what they stated. His parents initially attempted to separate the couple by sending him away to Paris, to finish the final year of his schooling, as they felt his youth made this relationship inappropriate. But she obtained a divorce from her first husband during this period and reunited with Macron after he graduated, marrying him in 2007. Macron has 3 stepchildren, 2 of whom are older than he is. Now, we all love to make fun of the French. I know that since I'm a Franco-American myself. And, but I want to relate it to the case of a young man who was born in the Cottle Creek community near Mooresville, North Carolina, on what is now Dale Earnhardt Boulevard. It was my grandfather, was born in 1854, and he went to Davidson, was in the class with Woodrow Wilson, and later transferred to Erskine College. He finished Erskine and spent the rest of his life in the teaching profession in upstate South Carolina, becoming the Commissioner of Education for Oconee County. At one point, he started schools and academies in all these little communities that he went to. My grandmother, who was his 3rd wife, he had 2 previous wives who died in childbirth, and my grandmother was 18 years old, and one of his students, he was 36, and my grandmother got sent off to North Georgia somewhere to live with relatives to get her away from Neil McCauley. And anyway, the story goes that Neil McCauley arrived on horseback with a pistol at his side and got my grandmother on the horse with him, and they eloped and were married in Carnesville, Georgia, if anybody knows where that got the second place is, on the 6th of January, 1892, and had and later had 10 children. But when they went back to Walhalla, my grandmother's parents would not speak to them for 3 years. Those Hollamans really can hold a grudge, and in fact they still do. But I couldn't help being struck by that story of Emmanuel Macron and relating it to my grandparents. In closing, let me just observe a couple of Maxinisms. The difference between the Pope and your boss is that the Pope only expects you to kiss his ring. And a husband, my wife was fond of this one. A husband is someone who, after taking out the trash, gives the impression that he has just cleaned the whole house, which I agree with completely. And thought for the day that I will leave you with: be who you are and say what you feel, because those that matter don't mind, and those that mind don't matter. Thank you.
I just want to remind you about the little blue buckets on your table. They're important to all of us, I think, but particularly to those of us who have family members who've encountered this dreadful disease. And remind you that we have, or CARD has, just finished donations that bring our totals to over $6.5 million for cutting-edge research in Alzheimer's disease. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, I just got another notice about Polio Plus. I get them every week. Last year, the year 2016, there were 37 active new cases of polio in the world. And so far this year, there have been 5. And I think that's wonderful. Thanks to Rotarians around the world for making that possible. And some really are out there on the front line in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, going into those last areas that are pretty scary places to be immunizing children. So thank you to those Rotarians who are willing to put their lives on the line to finish this project. Those are the last 2 remaining areas that have some number of live polio vaccine infections. So we're making progress. We have to go 3 years without a case to certify the world free of polio. So if we get it down to 0, we have to hold it there for 3 years, which means a lot of work still ahead. I'm going to ask Adam Jordan to come up and do some Paul Harris Fellow presentations for us right now.
Thanks, John. Your comments about polio were a great segue into what we're going to do here, which is present some awards for Paul Harris Fellows. Would Jerry Pate come up? This is Jerry Pate's 7th Paul Harris Fellow. How was that? Thank you for your commitment to the foundation, your generosity. The next one we have is a special honoree. She's already been introduced to the club, but I would like for Susie Gammon to come forward, along with Tom and Meredith. Susie is Tom's wife of 44 years. They've worked together for 29 years at American Blueprint Imaging Technologies, and they're still married, Tom points out. She is the mother of Ashley Bagwell, also a Paul Harris Fellow, and Meredith Atkinson, fellow Rotarian for 10 years, and also a Paul Harris Fellow. Her favorite role is Mammy to 3 beautiful granddaughters, ages 6, 21 months, and 6 months. And Tom says this Virginia boy feels very blessed to have his 5 Carolina girls in his life. Susie, congratulations. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
We're not done with special honorees, and this one is actually a surprise to the recipient, which I think is a lot of fun. Would Jake Schuler please come forward? give you the microphone and let you handle this presentation.
I didn't expect this, but I had the fortune of transferring points to this club, and I'm glad and proud to name my brother a Paul Harris Fellow.
Thanks, Steve.
Congratulations to you, and thank you.
Here, let me get a picture. Let me get John.
Yeah, okay.
You ready? Got it.
Thanks for coming down to be with us, and thanks for honoring your brother in such a special way. So the final thank you to this entire group and all the Paul Harris Fellows in the room for the generosity they've shown, the life-changing work and life-saving work that they've enabled through their gifts to the Rotary Foundation. If you have not given to the foundation yet this year, you have about a week left to get it in for the fiscal year. We would strongly encourage you to do so. I know our invocation referenced examining your checkbook. If you've examined your checkbook and you haven't made the donation to the foundation, we think this is a great time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, for your work this year on the foundation. We appreciate your leadership there. I do want to remind you, we are behind the goals that our district has set for us in raising money for the foundation this year. So if anybody just forgot a little check in to the club, to mail it to Debbie, and do it quickly if you can. We get it in this time, but we get it in by this time next week, we get it in for this year. So if you just have overlooked it and you want to make the contribution, it would be very helpful to bump our numbers up a little bit here for the final reading. I now would like to introduce Kay Shaw to introduce our speaker for the day. Kay, if you will, give a little reminder to those who are supposed to show up tomorrow.
Okay. Before I introduce our speaker, I will remind you that those who are traveling to Boeing in North Charleston tomorrow to meet at the airport campus at 9 o'clock. Don't wear suits unless you really just want to. You can wear casual clothes. They do ask that guests on their site not wear blue jeans, but we will leave the airport campus somewhere between 9 and 9:15 and travel down to North Charleston, have lunch, and then begin our Boeing tour somewhere around 1 o'clock. You do remember it's calling for 80% chance of rain in Charleston tomorrow, so dress accordingly, bring raincoats and umbrellas, but we will be inside, so I'm really looking forward to that. We should return around 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. If you have questions, please feel free to give me a call. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Beth Martin. Beth Martin is a high school director for the oldest legal homeschool accountability organization in South Carolina. At the South Carolina Association of Independent Homeschools, Beth assists parents in making homeschool dreams into a reality. Drawing from her 4 years teaching middle school math in a public school, and more importantly, from her 17 years homeschooling her own 3 children, Beth walks alongside homeschool parents and students to select the most appropriate curriculum, maintain records and transcripts, and prepare students for college and career. Beth recently worked with our scholarship committee to identify qualified candidates for our Rotary Scholarship. And it was evident after just a few interactions with Beth that she is indeed a champion for her students. Please help me welcome Beth Martin.
Thank you for having me here today. It's a joy to be here. When I first heard about homeschooling back in the 80s, I was a public school teacher here in Lexington 2, teaching middle school math, as Kay said. My parents were both public educators, and I was a product of the public education system as well. So my perceptions about homeschooling were pretty negative. I only knew one other family who homeschooled, and just because they homeschooled. I thought that they must be kind of odd. But when it came time for our oldest to head to school, we started considering, for a variety of reasons, started considering homeschooling. And after a lot of prayer and consideration and encouragement from my husband, we kind of dove in. And I said, well, we'll try it for 1 year. Well, 1 year became 2, 2 became 3, and pretty soon this experiment became a passion for me. And so in 2015, we graduated our youngest. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that with you today. You may be saying, well, why is this important to you? Well, the reality is 2.3 million kids are being home educated in the United States right now. And 22 to 33,000 approximately in South Carolina. The numbers are estimates because of the way things are tracked. It's a little hard to get an exact number, but that number is rising each year. So the reality is, as influential people in the community, in your businesses and whatever you do, you're likely to run into at some point a coworker who is homeschooled, a coworker who is homeschooling, or maybe a job applicant who has been homeschooled. And I think it's important to help everyone understand a little bit more about this educational option. Now, I want to be clear from the beginning that my goal here is not to say anything negative about other educational options. Public school, private school, and parents who are homeschooling are all out for the same goal. We all just want to provide the best possible education for our children. So my goal today is just to provide you with more information about this as one viable educational option. An interesting statistic is that home education results in an estimated $27 million savings to the taxpayers because these are students who do not need those services in the schools. Instead, parents actually pay for this education out of their own pocket. The average per pupil expenditure is about $600, and there are no taxpayer, state, local, federal taxpayer money that goes to those families in the state of South Carolina. I should point out that there is an option of education that looks a little like homeschooling that you may be familiar with that does receive funding, and that is an option through the South Carolina Public Charter School District, a virtual, an online option. So when I talk about any statistics today about homeschoolers, that's not including them because they are technically part of the public school system. So one of the things I've learned over the last 20 years, it may be hard to see, but the who's who of homeschooling, this radical movement that I thought I was entering, actually, my kids are in good company. There's some great influential people of our time. Homeschooling itself is really as old as time itself. It's not quite as radical as I thought. In fact, throughout much of history, parent-directed education has actually been the norm, parents taking on that responsibility. Compulsory education laws in the mid-1800s and early 1900s changed that. But since about the 1970s and 80s, that has started the shift and homeschooling is growing again. And the interesting thing is the demographic of homeschoolers is all over the place. It's not just one particular demographic. It's from the evangelical right to atheists to everything in between. It's the rich, the poor. Minorities is a growing population of homeschoolers. So there are a lot of different homeschoolers out there. So talking just briefly about it in South Carolina, prior to 1988, substantial equivalence was the term used. Parents who wanted to homeschool had to show that their education at home was substantially equivalent to what the public education was offering. Well, you can tell that's a kind of a vague term, and so that could be interpreted very different by different schools. And so some schools were more agreeable and some were very hostile. In 1988, a bill was signed that allowed homeschoolers under the auspices of the local school district to homeschool. And that became option 1 in the law. So we have our first option, the first thing on the books that says if parents meet this requirement, the local schools have to let them homeschool. So things seemed okay, but some people in the state were concerned that maybe we should look at other options. So just like the private schools had SCISA, the South Carolina Independent School Association, they looked to form a group similar to that. And that's when the South Carolina Association of Independent Homeschools that I represent was formed. In 1990, it was incorporated, and it became an option, but quickly thereafter, 11 families here in the Midlands were faced with truancy charges. So there were a lot of battles that took place, and the founders of our organization, Zan and Joe Tyler, were champions to the homeschool movement during that time, and they helped through many of these battles, working in the legislature, working with Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And in April of 1992, the South Carolina General Assembly enacted what is called SCAES legislation. So our organization was actually put in the law as option 2. So now we have option 1, you can work through the public school district. Option 2 is now our group name by name in the law. And then in 1996, the third part was enacted to allow other accountability groups to form. And there are about roughly 35 of those groups in the state right now. So what that means is if you want to legally homeschool in South Carolina, you have to either join option 1, the local school district, option 2, SCAES, or option 3, one of those other groups. Each group, the common requirements are the parents have to have a high school diploma or a GED. You have to have 180 days of instruction, maintain records, keep a portfolio of work, and teach the core subjects. But each group also has additional requirements unique to that option. So a little bit about SCAES itself. We are a nonprofit. We have 5 full-time employees. We have 5 part-time employees, and we have an office on St. Andrews Road. And so we have a physical office. We're funded through member fees. Our members pay a yearly fee, and we also have donors who are generous in helping us to keep those fees down. Because remember, most homeschoolers, they're giving up usually one income in the home so that somebody can stay home with the kids. And so we try to keep those as low as possible. And our board of directors, you may even know some of these people. We have Joe and Zan Tyler, we have Raymond Sheen, William Wood, Stanton Skoma, Robert Jackson, Dr. Robert Jackson, and Alex Zelling. These are some great people, a few here in the Midlands and a few in the upstate. These are all professionals. None of them receive any compensation for serving on this board. In fact, most of them give very generously of their time and sometimes of their money as well to help support and champion the homeschooling cause. And all of them either have or are currently homeschooling, except for Stan. He doesn't have kids yet, but we're working on him. He was homeschooled, so he will eventually, hopefully. So one of our board members, Dr. Robert Jackson, has summed up our mission well. He said, we are helping parents keep their promises to their children. And that is really what we do. We come alongside the families and we say, what are your goals with your child and how can we help you accomplish those goals? We have members from all over the state. We're a statewide organization. And when a family joins, they're assigned a counselor in the department in which their child or children are involved. And they can meet with us face-to-face, they can call us on the phone, they can Skype. We actually have families outside of South Carolina and even nationally, some missionary families. I Skype with families in Thailand and Spain. We have one in India, Guatemala, Ecuador, and then other states in the United States. But we work with these families, we're accessible to them throughout the year, and we assist them in selecting curriculum. So we talk through the different options, we look at their child and their needs, and we try to help find something that suits them. We help them with their schedule so they can come up not just with a daily schedule, but also a long-range schedule for the year, and even in high school planning for their whole high school, doing a graduation plan. And we help them maintain records because that's important to document what they're doing. So they have to fill out reports for us online and keep track of what they're doing. And we do mid-year reports, year-end reports, grades, attendance records. And we also require that they do nationally normed standardized tests every other year, so they're getting some feedback in that regard. And we maintain transcripts and issue diplomas, so we keep up with that so they have that when they graduate. If you are homeschooled, you can't get a public school state of South Carolina diploma, so having something from an organization can be helpful to show to employers or to show to colleges. We have an elementary department, a middle school and high school department, and a special needs department with specialized abilities or qualifications of our staff in those areas to help the families with those children. And then in the high school years, we do a lot with college and career planning to help prepare them so that they can not only have good, strong academics, but work experience, apprenticeships, and community involvement. So I want to take you quickly through what I call the face of a homeschooler, and I hope you can see some of these pictures a little bit. They may be a little hard to see, but first of all, let's start with some more statistics about a homeschooler. So, class of 2016, this is the SCAES. The SCAES is the darker color, the average SAT scores. You can see the average SAT score for a SCAES student was 25 compared to the state average, which was 18.5. And these are statistics from the ACT organization, not our own statistics. The other areas are the specific subtests of the ACT. And on the SAT, it's very similar. The class of 2016, again, their scores were excellent. A lot of this is just because of the one-on-one instruction that they get. And even if you've been involved in public education, you know that when you can work one-on-one with a child, you can get a lot accomplished. And that's what homeschooling enables the parent to do, is work one-on-one. So as I said, one of the great advantages of homeschooling is the one-on-one instruction. So personally, for a variety of reasons, we did all our classes at home. And so that meant the kitchen table with science experiments. It meant the backyard building trebuchets. It meant taking tests maybe at the kitchen table or doing experiments in the living room. But we were at home working with our kids. And when I got to the end of my abilities, I taught my kids to go search for answers. Information is out there, you just need to go find it. They passed me up early on in their high school career, and so I just had to find ways to coach them and enable them to find the information that they needed. And they have all come back to me and said that has helped them tremendously in college and adulthood, because professors don't have the time and employers don't have the time or the desire to hold their hands, and honestly, they shouldn't have to. Because we want to train up our children to be responsible, to be able to take a task or a job and run with it. And I think homeschooling by nature just makes that a little easier to happen. We taught them to go search for that information. But as students get into high school, sometimes parents are overwhelmed and they say, I don't think I can do this on my own. I need some help. I don't know how to teach pre-algebra, algebra or geometry or chemistry or something like that. So a lot of students, parents will go to a resource center or a co-op class that maybe meets once or twice a week. It kind of operates like a college class. They meet a couple days a week, then they go home and do things on their own. Again, this is really great for college and career readiness because it really is modeling that balance of working in a group, getting to work with other students, but then also learning to work independently, manage their time outside of class. Some also use private tutors and online classes. There's some great options for online classes. And a lot of our juniors and seniors start taking dual enrollment classes, so they're already getting some college credits under their belt. So academically, homeschoolers are great. But there's a lot more to that, and I know a lot of the people that talk to me about homeschooling are skeptical about the socialization. So what are these kids going to turn out like? Well, there's a lot of opportunities for homeschoolers to be out in the real world, to be rubbing shoulders with just normal people throughout the day. A lot of times their one-on-one instruction enables them to get done more quickly, and so they are done and ready to go on and do things like go to the Confederate relic room and take and do a class over there or other things during the day. One example, my boys got involved in a speech and debate league where they learned to articulate their thoughts. They had to research, put together cases, present and defend their views, collaborate with others, and it also taught them some great public speaking. My boys are were very shy and hesitant about public speaking, and yet by the time they were juniors and seniors, they were getting up in front of 200 and 300 people in finals and semifinal rounds of debate tournaments, being able to speak at a podium like this. It's just amazing to see that progression, and most of their speaking was not scripted like mine. They had to do it off the cuff, and it was just amazing. Homeschoolers play sports. There are some great homeschool leagues that students can get involved in. One in the area, if you've ever heard of it, Providence Athletic Club, is a great organization with almost every sport you can think of offered, and it's homeschoolers, but they play other private schools and other public schools in the area and around the state. But with the equal access law that went into effect in 2012, homeschoolers can also try out to play on their local public school team as well. So there's lots of options for sports. They don't have to give up that. Homeschoolers are also involved in the arts. We have a lot who get involved in music, drama, art, some through specific homeschool groups, but many through community organizations. They're very civic-minded. Not only have I observed homeschoolers actively campaigning and volunteering in political campaigns, but research shows that most homeschoolers continue to be politically active after they graduate, and I think we all would desire that to continue. And because homeschoolers have that extra time, a lot of times they are very eager to volunteer in the community, from weekly service at the library to nursing home visits, helping with things like the senior games, volunteering at Operation Christmas Child, or at a local food bank. They really do give to the community very generously. And finally, they take advantage of that extra time and hold jobs. They have opportunities with their flexible schedule to work, whether it's retail or fast food, or maybe they are innovative and come up with their own ideas and market their skills. And like my daughter having a little soccer camp one summer, or somebody painting over the summer. They like to get out there and take advantage of that time. And homeschoolers are just normal kids. They like to hang out with their friends. They like to go to dances. They like to just be teenagers. But they also have a positive view of family because they spend so much time with their family. And so really the family unit is very strong. And I'd love to watch my adult children now and their closeness they have for each other. So speaking of family, I'm going to tell you a little bit about mine in particular. My 3 kids were homeschooled from kindergarten through grade 12. The fourth in the picture, the girl on the right, is my daughter-in-law, and who was incidentally homeschooled from grades kindergarten through 8. So our oldest son has his BS and MA in economics from USC. He was a Palmetto Fellow Scholar. He was in the Honors College at USC, and he graduated with honors. He received a pre-doctoral fellowship from the University of Pittsburgh, and he just completed his first year PhD study there. Our second son, the one on the left, was also a Palmetto Fellow Scholar. He graduated from USC with a BS in mechanical engineering. He's been doing undergrad research in the nuclear engineering department and will continue that as a paid graduate assistant this coming year as he pursues his master's in mechanical engineering. And our daughter just completed her sophomore year at Columbia International University. She's played on the women's soccer team and will travel with the team for a missions trip to the Dominican Republic in August. She's worked at summer camps, soccer camps, and is a much sought after babysitter in the Columbia area because of her winning ways with kids. So I brag on them because I wanted you to see some actual faces that go and some real examples. But lest you think our kids were some exception. There's a class, again, can't see her too well, but that's our class of 2017. That picture, I just got it this morning. We graduated them on Saturday. There's actually 80 in the graduating class, 44 of whom participated in the ceremony. So of those 80 students, and I'll tell you these statistics are pretty normal for our group. Of those 80 students, 77% plan to continue their education at a 2- or 4-year college or university. 1 student was named a National Merit Finalist, 1 a National Merit Commended. Of those 80 students, our data shows that 11 of them will meet the qualifications to receive the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship. That's 13% of our graduating class. Now, if you don't know about the Palmetto Fellows, that's one of the lottery scholarships. And if you're in the top 6% of your class, you still need to get a 3.5 GPA, and you either need to get a 1200 on the SAT or a 27 on the ACT. But if you're not in the top 6%, you have to have a 4.0 GPA, 1400 on the SAT, or a 32 on the ACT. So our 6% is 5 students. I mean, 6 of those students had to get those higher testing and GPA qualifications. I mean, those are pretty impressive statistics in my mind. They've shown that they are very capable academically. But I also hope you see from some of the other pictures I showed you and examples I gave you, they're also just normal kids. They're very well adjusted. They're not backwards, unsocialized misfits that society often portrays them to be. As a whole, they're actually a very positively socialized demographic because of their interaction with the world around them on a daily basis. So as you encounter students or adults who have been homeschooled, if you're interviewing them for a job or you're just meeting them on the street somewhere, I hope you will look at them a little differently and look at them in a more positive light. And I hope this is helpful for you. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
My hat's off to you. I couldn't begin to do anything like that. I'd kill my children or they'd kill me.
We had some of those
But my problem with it, just conceptually, is how does one person teach such a variety of subjects and in such a way that they get it? And I understand that there are homeschool children who are exceptionally bright and who do extremely well. And like I say, my hat's off to you, but that's the part that I don't understand. In other words, a mother who dedicates herself to do this, that's great, but how can she possibly have the breadth of knowledge and experience in all the subjects that she has to cover?
Yeah, that's a good question. From my experience, what I will say is that I got a second education because basically everything my kids were doing, I was studying again. So I had homework every night. I was learning things. I was realizing how inadequate my first education was, probably not because of the teachers, but because I didn't pay attention well enough and didn't put enough in it. So I was learning with them. But again, we also, it's selecting the right curriculum. There's a lot of great curriculum that is written with the homeschooler in mind, and it helps walk you through. It provides you with probably more, from my public school experience, I will say there's a lot of the homeschool stuff that just provides more assistance in doing that. And then you learn to network. Homeschoolers are great at networking. They connect with each other. The moms talk with each other. They compare notes. They share ideas. And so there's a lot of learning that's going on the part of the parent. There's a lot of utilizing the resources around you, utilizing experts around you. I mean, we had a geologist in our church, so we said, you want to come talk to our kids. We want to get we wanted to get your expertise here and help you teach them. My kids needed some help with Spanish, so we found a lady who was a translator who was able to provide some assistance. So it's learning to use the resources around you. We're kind of like the MacGyvers of the education world. We figure it out and pull it all together. And that's what we do at SCAES too, is we try to help our families with that. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I can understand the elementary school, but in the high school, how do you duplicate biology, physics, and chemistry?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's some great resources. I mean, we ordered the kit of labs, of specimens to come to our house. We had information both on the computer and in books to show us how to do it. We went over to the state surplus place and got a microscope for a good price, and so we were able to do it that way. But the labs are a lot of times where families will come together and maybe get a person from the community who is trained in that area, whether they're a teacher or just somebody who knows about that area, and get them to help them. So there are ways to utilize those resources to help you do the labs. Yes?
But isn't one of the benefits of the resource center exactly what the questions you're getting? They're people that are specialized in biology or whatever it might be. So these kids that need to go to a resource center can go there and have a smaller group,
right,
and still be homeschooled and have a class of what, 15, 20?
Yeah, maybe 15 kids, and that's exactly right. Those resource centers and co-ops offer a lot of those classes. So like I have a mom right now that she was a journalist. She said, I'm good with English, but I need help with the math and the science. And so that's a great way for her to utilize those resources for some of those subjects. And then the ones she's strong in, do those at home.
How many resource centers are in South Carolina?
I can't say for the whole state. I know in the Columbia area, there's probably at least a half a dozen. And then add to that the online classes and virtual SC, which is run by the Department of Education, that offers free classes for public, private, and homeschoolers, as well as just the dual enrollment opportunities. A lot of kids take classes, dual enrollment for some of those subjects. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the equal participation part of it, where kids can homeschool and still do high school athletics, clubs?
Right.
How does that work?
Yeah, in 2012, that was enacted, so somebody has to have been homeschooling for a full year. They have it in the law, and this is a way to protect so you don't have somebody who just is failing their classes in the public school, but they want to still be eligible, so they can't just jump to homeschooling. You have to show you've been homeschooling for a year, and then they can go and try out for their team. I mean, they have to show grades, and they have to try out just like everybody else does. But then they can participate and go on campus for those events.
How does the school get selected, like it be in the same zone?
You have to be zoned for that school. Yes, sir.
What's your biggest external need in your organization from outside?
Outside, I think support is a great one. Just public support for homeschooling is a great option. But then also for our specific organization, we're a nonprofit, and we try to operate on a shoestring budget. I don't think we raised our fees in years and years because we know our families can't afford it. I mean, we have families every year who come into us. We run a used bookstore as well, so we try to gather donated curriculum so that we can help families out to find resources that aren't going to break the bank and they're not going to have to go into debt for. So we try to also help families in that way. So helping families financially is another need. Yes, sir.
Well, I think we don't have more time for more
Okay.
questions
Sorry.
at this point.
I'll be available after.
I will say, one of the heads that came up right down there is one of those weirdo homeschooler parents right there. And
You're not going to let me say anything.
I get to talk about you. He just told me that his oldest son is a nuclear engineer, so
Great.
they did a good job.
Yeah.
And if I had more time, we'd talk more about it, because it seems to be there are lots of questions. Beth, thank you very much. Interesting subject, and it's a real commitment, isn't it, Hal?
Especially on my wife's part.
On your wife's part, okay. Well, is anybody else homeschooled in here? Anybody, and are there any other families that homeschool? 1, 2, 3?
I have two
Okay,
nieces.
4?
I have two nieces that are homeschooled.
Okay, all right, so we have some connection with that. That's, I greatly appreciate the commitment that parents make to do that, for one.
Tim Tebow was homeschooled.
What's that?
Tim
Oh,
Tebow was
Timbo
homeschooled.
Okay.
FYI.
And he made a pretty good athlete out of him anyway, huh? All right, Terry, what are we doing next week?
Yes, so next week we have Dr. Melissa Strompolis, and she's going to talk about adverse childhood effects, basically things that happen to you in your childhood and how they affect your health as an adult. So it's pretty interesting, so hopefully I'll be there.
All right, well, thank you. And again, thank all of you for being here today. It's all about the fellowship that we gain and what we learn from these presentations that makes it special and worth being here. Rusty and Jim will lead us in a closing song.